Hafal is the leading mental health charity in Wales that is members-led, supporting people touched by mental health problems with a special emphasis on those with a serious mental illness, their carers and families. We also support others with a range of disabilities and their carers and families. Covering all areas of Wales, our services are underpinned by a unique recovery programme based on modern principles of self-management and empowerment, offering people a methodical way of achieving recovery by focusing on all areas of life. At Hafal, we are committed to providing help, support, advice and friendship for all our client group in Wales, including carers, and because we feel so strongly about this, we will take responsibility ourselves, wherever necessary, to ensure that they will not have to cope alone. This means that Hafal services across Wales will never turn away anyone in our client group. To every person in our client group who seeks our help, we promise lasting friendly contact through membership of Hafal and through our online community Click, by email, by social media, on the phone or in person, depending on what is practical. The online community Click was established in 2016 by Hafal, one of the founding charities of Mental Health UK, to help reduce the loneliness and isolation experienced by people with mental health problems and their carers in Wales. Thanks to Mental Health UK and the funding by our partners at Lloyd's Banking Group during the coronavirus pandemic, Mental Health UK were able to make Click available to everyone living in the UK to help people to connect online for mental health support. Hafal also produces a range of publications on a number of topics relating to mental health, caring and recovery that can all be found on our website www.hafal.org. Prynawn da, good afternoon and welcome to the Recovery Programme podcast. My name is Aaron Jenkins and I'm joined today by Dave Jones.
Afternoon everyone, hope everyone's well.
And we are also joined by Aimee Williams.
Hi, so I'm Amy. I'm a recovery practitioner in the Swansea Bay Early Intervention for Psychosis team. So thank you for having me today.
Pleasure to have you, Amy.
That's no problem, Amy. I hope everyone is okay. On this podcast, we are going to be discussing Children's Mental Health Week and Time to Talk Day. With Children's Mental Health Week, it is running from the 1st of February to the 7th of February, and Time to Talk Day is on the 4th of February. So with Time to Talk Day, it's really important because we are discussing conversations around mental health and help around how we can end the stigma. So I just wanted to have a discussion with you both about how the impact and the importance of it.
Yeah, massively, mate. I think that it's as we know, working in mental health is hugely important. Having those conversations and being able to talk about things that are going on in the world, especially with the current climate and everything that's going on. An important part of this year's Time to Talk Day is the theme that they're touching on is the power of small. So they're basically looking to try and highlight the impact that a small conversation about mental health can have a big difference to people's mood and to the problems and the issues that people are suffering. So I think that's really, really important that we as mental health services are able to push that message and be advocates for that message, because I think that having those small conversations, is really important, but I think it's a nice introduction and barrier breaker for people that maybe don't talk about their mental health so much.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it doesn't have to be, a phone call. It can be a text message. It can be FaceTime. We've got Teams, we've got Zoom. There's so many different ways of doing it. You can even speak to your neighbour. Have you got anything you'd like to add to that, Amy?
Yeah, I think the power of it being small is a really big thing, because sometimes all it takes for you to ask somebody how they are, how their day's doing, how it's going. So if you even said that to a stranger in the street, that might be the only interaction they're getting all day, and you can brighten their day from that. Or even if it's people you live with and friends, that little small opener to start a conversation, that might be all they need to open up to you to talk about their mental health.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, and I think the biggest difference from last year's Time to Talk Day, and I think we can both agree on this, is the situation with COVID
Yeah.
and the lockdowns, and how much of an impact do you think that's had?
Huge, I think, mate. I think that it's there isn't anyone that hasn't been affected by it, as it is the most important thing. Whereas before we used to talk about mental health and we'd say that it affects everyone, and people might take that a little bit blasé and go, yeah, all right, not me. Whereas I think when you talk about this pandemic, it really has affected everyone, and everyone's mental health will have been affected by this pandemic in some way or another, whether you're a key worker, whether you're a stay-at-home parent, whether you're a business owner. I think that it will have had a significant impact on everyone's day-to-day lives. And so I think that it hopefully will help us come together more as communities and as individuals to have those conversations over this period, and to try and support each other. I've touched on things before when we've had conversations, and I know I've said that it feels like it's gone through fluctuations, but I think communities in general have come together over the last 12 months, especially when you look at, I know I touched on before, the stuff around like food banks and things like that, and charitable donations. I think that people really have come together and have tried to support each other better. And I hope that that's something that can continue once this pandemic is over, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I know, from my point of view, when you go into an office, just that small conversation you can have with a colleague of how are you, how's your day, have you got a busy week? Those little small conversations, I've missed them, I have, because it's just a little bit of a break, and, you're able to just have the interaction with people. And I think that's one of the big things I've noticed and I've missed. How do you feel about that, Amy?
Yeah, I was just thinking now, actually, a year ago when it was Time to Talk Day in 2020, in the role I was in then, I actually went into a local college and sat up there for the day, and I was like talking to all the young people and the students about mental health and everything and having those conversations. Whereas obviously this year we can't do that because of COVID. So I think even though people are more aware of mental health in their daily lives and their own well-being, we've got to put in like so much more effort now to actually, reach out to each other and get that support, because all those little like bits of support we'd normally have in our daily lives, they've been taken away. So it's really important that we do reach out to each other and we have those extra support and services in our lives now.
Yeah, and I think with Time to Talk Day, it is aimed at everybody, from children to adults to, older people. Because obviously I know a lot of children aren't going to school at the moment, they're homeschooling. So they're missing on the interaction with the other young people. So, they may need to reach out, and, this is what this day is really important about.
Yeah, I
So,
know sorry, I'll just to interrupt you. There's just a little tip to take away that really helped me, if I'm honest. There's been times, like I said in the last podcast, where I've really fluctuated over this last year. I've had a really positive outlook on things at some times, and then at others I haven't so much, and I've accepted that. And I think that at times I came into the office actually, and there was a colleague, male colleague who I was speaking to. He came in one day and he just went, "How are you, mate? You all right?" And I think that is a very standard question. And the difference he asked me, and I went, "Yeah, mate, as it is, same, like, just same thing, same day, sort of answer." He then asked me again. He said, "Yeah, but how are you? Are you okay?" So he asked me exactly the same question, just twice. And I think he got me to open up about things that were happening. It was really, really clever, and a really, really sort of powerful way of actually showing me that he was asking me more than just generically if I was all right. He just asked the question a second time. and we had a discussion about how things were going on, and we sort of went more in depth about some of the things that were happening, and I felt better for it. So if there was a sort of tip that I would give away to people trying to have those discussions, if you think that someone is maybe struggling or carrying something a little bit, maybe just do that. Just ask them once, as if it's like your generic, how are you, everything all right? And you expect a generic answer. But if you really want to try and get them to open up about something, ask them a question again. Just ask them twice and let them know that you're really interested in what they've got to say and what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, that's what's really important, is always having that second question to follow up. Amy, have you got any tips you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with what Dave's saying there, because I think when people ask you, you automatically say, yeah, I'm fine, without even thinking about it. So asking twice is a really good way to go about that. I think like other tips, maybe with your friends, just keeping an eye out. And I think a lot of the time people say if their behaviour changes, so if they're maybe being more quiet, they're isolating themselves, maybe you notice their sleeping pattern has gone a bit funny with like when they're texting you or posting on social media. So just kind of keeping an eye out to be aware of those things. But also, even if everything does seem fine online and on social media, still reach out, because it's so easy. Because all our contact is virtual these days, it's so easy for you to see a friend and think, oh wow, they're having an amazing time in lockdown and they're achieving everything and they look like they're having a really positive, time through lockdown. But still reach out and text them or call them, because it might just all be a face online.
Yeah, I agree with both of what you said. I think it's really important. And at the end of this podcast, we will be giving a couple of tips of support that's around the areas really. So we'll do that at the end of the podcast.
Our other theme, obviously, for this week, if we're moving on, is to Children's Mental Health Week. So, as you guys know, I was lucky enough to catch up with Havel's Young Persons Ambassador, Lloyd Ashley, who's the Ospreys player, earlier this week. And we've got a bit of a pre-recorded conversation me and Lloyd had. So if we just want to take some time out just to have a listen to that, and then we'll reflect. So here is myself and Lloyd catching up earlier this week. Good afternoon, Lloyd, and welcome to Recovery Programme podcast. It's fabulous to have you on board. Obviously, Havel's Young Persons Ambassador and Ospreys player. Firstly, how are you?
Hey, mate. Thank you very much for the invite. Appreciate that, and appreciate the support as always. But yeah, all good, my MA. It's been quite lucky to be playing throughout everything that's going on. So we've managed to keep some normality in our routine.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything going well, my mate. And how's everything with you?
Yeah, all good, thank you, mate. Same. It's nice to be in work, and it's nice to have some sort of structure of the 9 to 5 is holding me for the time being. My workouts have gone through the floor though, unfortunately, but I'll have to get back to them. I wanted to ask you, Lloyd, how things are going on the pitch. How are you finding things at the moment with are you finding the change with no fans and being tested for COVID more regularly? Are you finding with that, mate?
Yeah, it's strange there are no fans. I think when you're a young, aspiring professional athlete, you see the big crowds in big stadiums. You get a flavour of it playing in different places, and that's what you fall in love with. So to not have that support there physically, week in, week out, is different. I think you rely on people in the team a lot more than you ever have for the energy and positivity. Whereas you've got to sort of create your own atmosphere by playing well, doing things well, getting a buzz as a team. And I think the Ospreys have done that in fairness throughout this season. So it's been really nice to be involved in that. But it is different. The testing is very strange. Trying to keep everybody safe, not just the players here, but their families. Very important, I think. In fairness, the WRU and the Ospreys have done a fantastic job of keeping us all as safe as possible. Even though we've been playing week in, week out, we've been able to feel safe. and supported in everything that's gone on. There's been a lot of transparency. So, yeah, it's been really positive in fairness. And I think for everybody involved, the biggest thing was keeping not only us on the field, but keeping everybody's family safe, and everybody's bought into that and made a lot of sacrifices to make sure we can carry on playing throughout.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. It's you touched on generating your own atmosphere and having that real sort of team spirit at the moment. It seems to work well for you. You've got a decent run of results lately, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been a tough couple of years leading into this year, so it's been nice to get a couple of positive results. Everybody's got smiles on faces. Everybody's working as hard as they possibly can to carry that on as well. So it's been hugely positive, and the smiles on faces, as we all know, lifts everybody.
Yeah, fab. Hopefully that'll continue as the year progresses, mate. I mean, off the field now, I wanted to talk to you about your involvement with Hafal and obviously you're our young person's ambassador, which is amazing, and we're absolutely chuffed to have you on board with us. It's really clear, Lloyd, when you flick through your social media accounts that you've got a real passion for mental health. Can I ask you where that comes from? Where does that originate from? What sparked that?
I've always liked speaking to people. Just didn't really realise the impacts of what talking does for yourself and others around you. Yeah. And then further on in my career, when we speak about men not being able to talk about their emotions, started realising that as rugby players especially, that we say, yeah, we're fine, whatever's going on. And just thought, we need to do more about this. Why are we not speaking about tough times, whether it's family times, whether it's things around rugby? Why are we not speaking about that? And then I went to do an introduction to counselling course, and then I sort of fell in love with the idea that we've got so much more to give each other if we just give each other time, created more safe spaces. And that came about then with meeting Hafal and seeing the work that they were doing, and luckily coming on board then as well.
Yeah, you've led me onto it quite nicely, Lloyd. So I suppose, as I say, you are one of our young person's ambassadors. How did that come about with Hafal? Where did that come from? Involvement.
So I sort of had seen their Time to Change campaign first of all, and then I'd seen their link with Hafal and started having some questions about sort of what Hafal do, what other mental health charities are about, and what work they're doing, and then sort of got introduced to Hafal through a couple of different contacts at the same time. And so when you're getting pointed in the same direction by a couple of different people, you think, oh, they must be doing good work, because there's quite a few people singing their praises. And then I come down to the offices in Swansea, had a meeting with a couple of different people, Laura being one of them, and talking about the work they do with young people. And I thought, oh, I'd love to get involved in that if there's anything I can help with. And then we just come up with the idea of what, come on board as an ambassador and support Hafal with whatever way it can. And that's where it come from. And I've absolutely loved being a part of it, whether it's like sports days, whether it's when they done the sailing trip and seeing those positive activities. Like I had so many positive experiences from it, and the smiles on faces, the small things people get back. So I've absolutely loved being a part of it, and I'm proud to say that I'm an ambassador for Hafal, because I know the great work everybody within the organisation does.
That's awesome, mate. It's brilliant to see that you've still got that enthusiasm for it, and we hope to have you on board for as long as we can do, really, and do as much as we can to help us out with. It leads me into Children's Mental Health Week, Lloyd. So obviously this week now, it's Monday the 1st, which marks the start of Children's Mental Health Week this week. I'm creeping up to the big 3-0 this year. I think I'm a similar age to you, unfortunately. I was thinking about some of the initiatives that were around when I was young and I was in school, and I can't remember there being a highlight like Children's Mental Health Week. I was wondering whether you could remember anything being around when you were younger, or if you had any experiences of mental health when you were younger or in school.
Yeah, strange you say that, Dave. I think I've got 8 hours left to being 29. So
I do.
I'm really making the most of them. So
congratulations, yeah. I think, if that's all right too.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it, but yeah. No, I don't remember anything being around. All I used to remember people saying is, "Oh, like, come on, get on with it. Be happy. but just no support in place or no understanding of how to get to that place. I was always lucky. I've always absolutely loved sport, especially rugby. Tried other sports, realised I was pretty terrible at them, but give them a go. But I found my passion probably quite young. And it was always probably an escapism when things weren't going well, to go in sort of a safe hiding place for me, rugby was. But I don't think there was any initiatives in place, didn't teach anybody how to express their emotions, but sort of said, oh, okay, if you do want to speak to me, you know where I am. But now there's more education around there, there's more support for people, there's understanding, whether there's different colours for people's emotion, whether it's scoring on a temperature chart so you understand where you are that day. There's so many now fantastic tools to help youngsters with their mental health, and that's so important because we need to put those things in place when we're young, because it will be tough times, whether we're young and we're seeing our parents go through a divorce, losing grandparents. There's going to be times that are really tough, and the more we can do, the more we can support youngsters at those points, the better they're going to come out of their youth and come into their more senior years. I know none of us are anywhere near our more senior years in life, but getting older and coming into what they call adulthood, I'm hoping I'll get there soon and grow up a little bit. But I think it's so important that we do learn, we do speak. And I'm probably only getting around to that in my mid-20s, late 20s, about speaking about things, understanding how things are going on. But there's so many different things we can do, whether it's going out for a nice walk, whether it's being physically active, picking up the phone. Like youngsters, they might not be able to see people now with the pandemic going on, but they've got so much technology. They can FaceTime. They got social media where they can speak to people. I know social media has its downfalls, and I know that there's lots of things negative that go on there, but it's so positive that they're able to stay in touch with people who they really care about so easily as well. And they need to use the positives they can. And we as ambassadors for mental health need to carry on spreading the word about simple steps you can put in place every day, how it makes everybody feel that little bit better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, mate. I think that sharing and spreading that message, especially to young people, I'm very similar to you. I've sort of always been a talker, but more so as I've come to my mid sort of late 20s, have I realised the impact that it has. I used to talk but not really get anything from it. It was just an offload, whereas now I really value the advice I think that other people give me, and just value that someone will be there to listen to some of the things that I talk about. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the further we can push that message and to help younger people understand that better is really, really important and really key sort of role I think that we have. It sort of leads me on as well, to be honest, mate, we're talking about this, there's so much going on and there's so many different ways for young people to communicate and to try and distract themselves. How do you distract yourself? Obviously, you're really busy day in, day out with training and obviously matches. How do you switch off from rugby?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things. I'm very fortunate to have a wife and twin girls who come up to 6 months now, so there's not much time to keep myself distracted from when I get home and get away from training. But also speaking about mental health, I've started my Living Well with Lloyd Ashley page on Instagram, which is just trying to spread a more positive vibe around mental health, and just realizing that mental health's with us all the time. It's not just when it's negative, it's when it's positive as well. Yeah. Like we sometimes think that mental health only comes if we're in crisis, but it's not, it's with us all the time. So the more we can do every day to build positive mental health is so important. And there's we've probably done quite a bit of research this year on cold water therapy, and that's probably the one that's taken up quite a bit of my time at the moment, trying to get in the sea at least twice a week, building up to about 10 minutes. I think yesterday going in the sea when there was snow on the car, I think that was probably not my wisest choice. But apart from that, I've absolutely loved it, and it's been good to understand different limits that we've all got. Obviously doing it in a safe environment, having people around you that you know is safe. But these bits of research now that I found out now, and I'm always thinking to myself, I wish I knew about more of these things when I was younger, so I could have started putting these more positive building blocks in place. Yeah. So that's probably how I keep myself distracted. But I am really enjoying getting people involved in the conversation around mental health with my Living Well stuff, and that's been fantastic to see how many people are willing to speak about it. And I think since coming an ambassador for Hafal, people have felt a little bit safer to come and speak to me. I've loved the conversations I've had. They've been much more open. They've gone to depths I never would have before coming an ambassador. And I've learned all about creating a safe space for people around you so they're comfortable speaking to you. And that's not easy to create, but if we give people time, give people effort day in, day out, it's a lot easier, and it will come more natural to you as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I've noticed that as well. I've noticed that when we've been to events, people have come up to you and how open and approachable you've been, talking to people and allowing them a space to discuss things with you has been really.
Yeah, I think my wife calls that home avoidance, Dave, not being nice. So it can be taken in many different accords, I suppose.
I'll leave that domestic between you and your wife. Back on your cold water therapy, are you a big follower of Mr. Hoff then?
Yeah, I didn't have much to do with it, to be fair, till probably I'd heard a couple of people say about it. I hadn't really looked into it, and then started looking into the research that's been done on it for the anxiety, depression, and you start thinking to yourself, wow, it's such small touches. Like, I know the start of his therapies, 30 seconds cold shower at the end of your everyday shower, and you think, that's all I need to do to make myself feel a lot better, reduce the levels of anxiety, depressive nature, boost our immune system. Like, why are we not doing it? It's almost selfish us not doing it. And then start looking into it. And in fairness, I have found being out in nature as it is, going down the beach and doing it is even more powerful as well. So I've been really impressed with how much better I feel. And I almost thought, this can't be that good. And then you start doing it and you're like, got that buzz of adrenaline after you come out, and you're like, it was well worth doing it. But I must say 10 minutes at times is really tough to get through as well. And you're contemplating what you're doing and why you're doing it as well.
Final closing comments then, Lloyd. I just want to see if you had, obviously you've talked really, really well already, but just to sign off, if you had a message for anyone out there that might be currently experiencing or has recently experienced poor mental health, have you got any advice for those people? What would you say to advise those people?
My advice would be just to remember you're not alone. It's easy to feel that nobody else has had that lived experience that you're going through at the current time, but there are people there for you, whether it's family, whether it's friends, and there's people who want to listen to you. And they might not have the answers, and a lot of the time we think we're looking for answers, but we're actually just looking for a space to speak. So go to your friends, speak, be honest. When they ask you how you doing, they mean it. Use that time, use that space, and whether you feel more comfortable over FaceTime or you feel more comfortable over text, there's so many other services. If it's not your friends or family you want to speak to, and I know Hafal do a great job of not only promoting the services that they can provide, but promoting the services that are there 24/7 as well for anybody who's struggling. So just remember, you're never alone. You've always got people who care about you. And if it's not those who you think are the best people to speak to, there's always services that are there for you.
Some great advice there. Thank you ever so much, Lloyd. Lloyd, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you, and thank you ever so much for your time. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come and have a chat with us today on the Recovery Programme podcast. And we really, really hope that we can have you back again to do some more stuff in the future if you'd like to and you'd be able to.
They're always available. I think what the work you're doing is absolutely fantastic, and I know the people who are in the program as well. I've seen and spoke to a lot of those and know the benefits they have from the programs as well. So keep up the good work. Thank you for the invite, and good luck with the podcast.
No problem, mate. Thank you ever so much again. We'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, pal.
Bye, Lloyd. Okay, so all good. Me and Lloyd having a quick catch up there around things to do with Children's Mental Health Week. So thank you again to our Young Persons Ambassador, Lloyd Ashley. Some interesting stuff in here, guys. I think the one theme that I wanted to touch on was the actual theme of Children's Mental Health Week for 2021, which was they're looking at expressing yourself. So it's encouraging young people to find ways to share feelings, thoughts, or ideas through creativity. So they're looking at things like art, music, writing, poetry, dance, and drama. I'm not a very arty or creative person myself. My form of art and creativity would be done on a football field. I don't know if any of you guys would utilize or share any of those themes.
Yeah, I think an interesting thing about expressing yourself, because it doesn't actually matter if you're good at whatever, whatever art or sport or whatever you're doing to express yourself. It doesn't matter if you're good at it or the best of it, as long as you're doing it and you're doing it for yourself rather than other people. So you're just doing it as a way to show who you are and how you see the world. And then in turn, that's going to make you feel good about yourself, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't put myself in any of those categories in terms of an arts or dancer or anything like that. But express can be anything. It can just be, how you speak, if you're there, to talk to other people and happy to interact with, your neighbors and people on the street saying good morning, good afternoon. So yeah, I wouldn't put myself in those categories in terms of being a dancer or arts and crafts. But I like to think to myself as being expressive, but in a different way.
Yeah, that's as I say, that's the same as me. I haven't really got a creative bone in my body, I don't think. Unless I've got a football at my feet, that's probably when I'm as ingenuitive as I can be, I think. The importance and the other thing I want to touch on is we talked about Time to Talk Day. There's a nice theme between these two, because obviously Time to Talk Day is everyone in general just sharing experience of mental health. Children's Mental Health Week focuses more solely on young people. Do you think that one is more important than the other? Do you share the feeling that it's just as important for young people to share what's going on as it is for adults? Where do you sit with that?
I think it's as important both ways. I don't think one is more important than the other, but I can see why it is so important for young people, because they're still developing who they are. They're developing their character, their personality, and they're going through really challenging, tough times. They face a lot more challenges in some ways than adults do, because they are still a child. So having these opportunities to express themselves and all this other work that's going on around them, I think it holds a really good position for them then.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I think they're both as important as each other. With mental health, it doesn't matter what age you are. You can have it when you're a young person, or you can have it when you're a little bit older, And I think if it affects a young person, then we should have early interventions to support them. And that's why I think Children's Mental Health Week is really important, to put those early interventions in play. But we should also remember that mental health can happen to people who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s, and even higher. And I think it's having that balance between both young person and, adults.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder whether, for me, I sort of feel the same as you. I wonder sometimes about whether there's more barriers and limitations for young people than there are adults. Whether that's me thinking about it critically as an adult and wondering about it, but I wonder whether the stigma of mental health is more impactful for young people than it is for adults. I think that when you're in your social circles when you're younger, some of those judgments and those feelings can be more intense when we're struggling. And we haven't necessarily developed those skills to understand or to deal with some of those anxieties and feelings that we can have when we're younger. So I do wonder whether there's a bigger stigma for young people to talk about it. And I suppose it's important for us as mental health support workers to promote young people talking to each other and sharing that experience just like we would with adults.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in complete agreement with that. And I think the word you said there which really caught my attention was deal. Because when you're young, you're still learning, you're still developing, and you may not be able to cope with pressures of, your exams, of moving schools, different peer groups. When you're an adult, you may have those skills, but you're still learning them on the job almost. Whereas with a young person, you haven't got those skills. You can't deal with it at the moment, and you feel if you go and speak to your parents, you may feel a bit ashamed. You can't go and speak to your friends. And I think, that's what we're trying to do is break down those barriers. Definitely go and speak to your friends. Definitely go and speak to your parents. Go and speak to your teachers.
Yeah. Aim, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think with this will link into what we talk about next with the youth access work, but I think there is a lot of barriers for young people, and it's not just when they're talking to friends and family either. It can be when they go to professionals and seek professional help. They're still, they're still facing barriers there and maybe not getting the help they should be, which, is something that everybody is trying to work on to change in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, no matter where you live in Wales, the support should be available across the board, no matter if you're 11 or if you're 14 or if you're 16. It should not matter.
Yeah, definitely. Leads us on quite nicely, actually. Amy, you've already sort of done my job for me and mine and Aaron's job and made the link for us. The Youth Access Charter has been finalised this week. Am I right in saying that? This week, last week?
Yeah, so we've just finished the final draft of the call to action document.
Amy, could you formally introduce the charter for us and give us an idea of some of the work that you've been doing over the last couple of months to help try and support the young people in developing their requests?
Yeah, so just to give an overview, there's been increasing concerns about how young people's emotional well-being and their mental health, and louder calls to improve about how we can help and support them. So this call to action document explains what changes we demand. When I say we, I mean the voices of more than 100 young people aged 12 to 25 from across Wales, with different experiences of emotional well-being and mental health. So we're aligned to the Our Minds, Our Future partnership, which covers the whole of the UK, and they're who we've shared our views, wishes and feelings with about what we want with good quality emotional well-being and mental health support to look and feel like. So this partnership, Our Minds, Our Future, is actually being launched on the 4th of February 2021. So the project's been funded by the National Lottery for 5 years. So it's been going for about a year now, so there'll be another 4 years of this work being continued and developed. And they've established a coalition of 10 youth and mental health organisations. So in Wales, these partners include Promo Cymru and Hafal. The project follows a rights-based approach. So we've been looking at articles and rights of what we are entitled to as children and young people. But I think a really big theme that we've kind of explored is that it's about more than just young people in schools and people that are already in special services. What we really want to bring attention to is that this is for all young people and they're all entitled to this support, so they should be able to easily access it. So the 5 key demands for improving this that we have identified are that we want community-based support for 16 to 25-year-olds to be holistic, easy to access and fit seamlessly with other pathways and provisions. We want to see flexible and joined up services that fit our needs and for them to use clear, accessible information with us. We want to access physical and online settings that are safe, welcoming and respectful. We want influencers and decision makers to listen to us and be accountable to us. And finally, we want to see a minister with a portfolio for children and young people up to the age 25. So I think when we were doing this, some of the comments that we had, that these almost seem like common sense and things that we should have anyway as young people. But they're obviously not being met because, we've had a group of over 100 people, young people that have said that these needs aren't being met. And I think one big theme that I've come away from it, and a lot of people agreed, is that so obviously children's services end when you get to 18.
Yeah.
But just because you're 18, it doesn't mean, you know, on your 18th birthday, everything changes. You're not ready to go straight into adult services. So like a big thing we talked about was like having that transitional period from like, say, when you're 16 to 25, and the difference that that could make to that seamless transition to different services. I'm not sure if you guys agree with that.
Yeah, massively. I've obviously been in the role now for sort of 4 years, and I've overseen quite a few transitions from CAMS to CMHT, and they can be without. I'm not trying to criticise services or highlight anything really here. I'm just giving my own personal experience. They've been really difficult times for those individuals. They're the most tasking times for individuals. It's a lot of change. Some of these young people haven't been in education, they haven't been in school, they haven't had sort of that experience of those social environments and that social confidence, if you will. And I think I'd agree with what that charter reflects, is that that's a really, really stressful time for young people transitioning into adult services. So I think that there could definitely be more work and support provided around that time frame and that transition.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you both. I know through my experience of working with young people, it's been from when they've turned 18 and they've got to go into, this is before COVID, obviously going into buildings which are adults,
Yeah,
they're adult buildings, and they tend to find that quite daunting and quite overwhelming. And
yeah,
that tends to be the biggest barrier, that they can't get their foot through the door. And that tends to be a lot of work around that, and then how we can support them, you know, to get through that barrier. But those are the things I've picked up on, and I'm in complete agreement with what those young people say in terms of having a transition period or transition team that can work between the services.
yeah, hugely. With it, for you, Aim, I know you just touched on what you've taken from it. Of the key points, do you think are there any to you that are really significantly more important at the moment, or any of them that need sort of actions immediately in comparison with the others, or do you think that they all sort of hold their own respective value and all need to be implemented sort of equally?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of things that we discussed, obviously, throughout the months of developing it, and these are the 5 points that we've come away with. So I would say that they all need to be addressed as soon as they could be. And like, you know, we talked about COVID as well and the effects that has had on it. And I think even though it has affected it, it doesn't take away like the magnitude of the problem that these young people are facing. Like, you know, they're not getting the services that they need, and you know, some people are, which is brilliant, but some people aren't, which isn't really good enough. So it's really good that we've had this opportunity to bring it to attention, and like hopefully for like these decision makers to be accountable to young people, because I think even though these people, like, you know, their children, they're young adults, they should have like a role in how their care is delivered to them. And like we talked about in there, like getting clear, accessible information. Because a lot of the time they don't really know, they don't understand the process. You know, they know they've got a mental health worker, but they might not know the role of that person. They don't know the expectations for the care. So I think, you know, we've got the services there. It's just about putting some like time and energy into them to like hopefully make some positive changes.
Yeah, it's really scary and quite daunting. You've already touched on it, and the word daunting, I think, for young people, especially when they don't know what's happening, when there's no clear communication and information available to them to inform them of what's happening with their care. Echo that that's a really, really important point for a young person, is to be kept in the loop and to give them decisions themselves, to get to have some control and some influence over their care, whether that be filling out their care plan with a care coordinator or a healthcare worker. I think just little things like that to keep that person engaged and build that relationship with them is really, really important and really key work to do with young individuals.
Yeah, and I mean, out of those 5 points, I agree. I think they're all really important. The one that really stands out for me is having a minister, because at least then, you know, that's the person who makes those decisions.
Yeah.
And I think all those other 4 points will come into it after there's a minister.
Yeah.
And I think that can have a huge impact. I know we've got a mental health minister now, and we know the work that they're doing. And I think it can have the same effect by having a young person's minister.
Yeah, definitely. We with it, I'm just wanted to touch on the point of how important I think it is that young people are obviously in reflection with young people's Children's Mental Health Week. I think it's really important that we reflect on the ability these young people have shown to come up with this charter aim. Were there any sort of things that you took from the young people themselves about their sort of passion for how they spoke, or the characteristics of these young people?
Yeah, I think it's such a good thing that this is so like young person led, because a lot of the time, I mean, I'm speaking like as a young person myself, but a lot of the time you'll have adults, like people over the age of 25, making all these decisions. And like, yes, I'm not saying like obviously they're very passionate and a lot of the work they do is really good, but they aren't young people. So it's so good to have like this focus and it being led by young people themselves. And like when you actually like hand it over to young people and you can see how passionate they are about these things, the skills they can bring to developing pieces of work like this. And like when you get to actually see the document, like we've got a lot in there about like direct experiences of the young people and the things that they're going through. And I think it's such a good opportunity to kind of just put like that light on them, to give them a voice, because a lot of the time young people don't have a voice in talking about their experiences. So by giving them that attention, it actually shows like how powerful they can be and how much they can change.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the word you use there, voice, is perfect, because they're having a say on their own future. It's no one else is having a say for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've always said, for me, from a personal point of view, I've worked with young people since I was 21 myself, so I was still really a young person whilst I was working with young people. And even then, I've held the mantra for myself that young people are going to be the future of the future. And I hate, it's my sort of bugbear to see young people either not realize that they have potential or not fulfill their potential. And I've always held the mantra for myself that if I can help a young person to even realize their potential, then I'm doing something right. And I think that this youth access charter and having those young people deliver what they want to deliver to us and instigate the way they want their care to be looked after is really, really inspiring. And I think there's something that's just really positive and matches up really nicely with the exposure we're trying to give to Children's Mental Health Week as well. So I think that about wraps it up for everything we've got this week. Was there a couple of things you wanted to touch on?
I just wanted to say some tips really, in case anyone is looking for support. Hafal have a service called Click, which is an online community support group. There's also Samaritans. We've got the Hafal Promise, if you live in Wales, which you can find on the Hafal website, which has got more information as well. And also ITV are doing a great campaign at the moment. It's called Britain Get Talking, and I think it does link in with the Time to Talk Day.
Yeah.
And that's all the tips I can think of off the top of my head.
Lovely, thank you. Amy, any closing comments from you?
Yeah, I would just say for people to check out the Time to Talk Day page, because I was looking at it earlier and they've got like a whole like virtual festival like of events that I'm sure will be like available after the day as well. Just like to try out different activities and see if that makes you feel any better and just gives a bit of fun to your day. Like I think they've got like a laughter yoga or something, which might be something I might try out. I haven't done that before. So
Aimee is definitely coming for our job, because as host, that is exactly what I was going to link in and say that we will share the Time to Talk Day website and the Children's Mental Health Day website, Children's Mental Health Week websites, along with the podcast. We'll put them in a hyperlink somewhere so that if anyone does want any further information, they can access those things, and there'll be direct links and websites to Hafal as a wider organisation, and Hafal Click will ensure that all those websites are tagged within the podcast somewhere as well. I think that's it. Do you want to lead us out?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to David. Thank you, Aimee, for coming on to the podcast today. Thank you for everyone for listening. Hopefully you've taken something from this podcast. If you could just leave any feedback, because it will help us develop the podcast, and also share with anyone who you think would be interested in it. And we do look forward to having you on the next podcast as well.
Thank you all. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.